Reverse. In the Indian Council Act 1861, this Council Act gave the permission to the even to the whom to the Indians to participate in making the framing of the laws. According to 1861 Act, Indians were nominated to the Council of Viceroy. Viceroy, we already said, Viceroy is the one who is going to represent the Queen. Now, in the Council of Viceroy, as a team member of the Viceroy, Indians were what? Nominated. They are not elected, nominated they are. So when we say nominated, we can understand that being they will be there, but all authority is under the hands of whom? Under the hands of the Viceroy. Viceroy, another side, Viceroy was authorized to proclaim ordinances. What he can do? Ordinances. Ordinance is nothing but what it is that? It's a power where any spot of the time how the Governor General feels to implement the laws, he can go beyond the Board of Directors, Council, Executive Council members, Secretary of State for India, Commander-in-Chief. He can go beyond that, and he can introduce the law. Who says? 1861 Act it says. Okay, so now, but this gave the opportunity to Indians to also to get to understand what type of different laws are being framed by the East India Company. In the same way, in the year 1892, Indian Council Act was being introduced. According to this act, the number of additional members in the regional and central legislative body, more number of members are being added in the regional in the sense provinces, as well as in the central part of the legislative bodies were being increased. They were being increased, and the first time the word called as a budget. We very well know that budget, it helps in what? In framing, because regarding the expenditure part, budget talks related to the expenditure. First time the British in the Indian Council Act 1892 brought this word called as a budget. Moreover, if any sort of public issues are there, to the Governor General office or to the Viceroy office, they have to give 6 days before the notice. 6 days before, so that to understand what are the different public issues are there and to how it can be rectified. Keeping that in the mind, what it has been said regarding any public issues it may be there, if they want to put up in front of the Governor General, they have to give 6 days earlier the notice to the Viceroy. Where it was kept in the year 1892 according to the Indian Council Act it is said. But whereas Indian Council Act 1909, which is even called as a Minto-Morley Act, 1909, which is even called as a Minto-Morley Act, one Viceroy and one Secretary of State for India. Okay, in the name of them, what it is, one Indian Council Act and another one is Minto-Morley Act is been also said in the year 1909. Here, now as we have studied in the year 1892, regional and central legislative body, regional and central, right? Here we can understand that in the central legislative body, the number was 16, but now from 16 it brought to the way to the 60. The numbers were being increased in the way in the central legislative body. In the same way, council of members were also increased in the way in the provinces. Provinces, presently you call it as a state. At that time it was since referred as a provinces. So here in the center also numbers were being increased, and in the provinces also what it is, council members were being increased. Moreover, first time the word called as election was being brought up. But elections in the form of separate electoral college, separate representatives. It's nothing but British introduced his cunning policy called as divide and rule policy. Separate electoral college in the name of Sikh, in the name of Hindu, in the name of Muslims. Separate representatives. This itself shows what it is, that in the name of Indian Council Act 1909, Minto-Morley Act, they to rule more on the country called as India in the name of representatives, making the Indians to feel that they are also the part of the British East India Company, or they are the part of the England government, adding them into the council of members, adding them into legislature body at the provinces and at the central level. But as we know very well that they were just nominal, they were non-officials, they are not official, they all are the non-official. And here, by bringing divide and rule policy in the name of separate electoral college, separate representatives, these people were being what? Divided. These people were being divided. Disunity was being created in the way among these all peoples. In this way, 1909 it gave the opportunity to for the election, but 1909 also created a hamper among the whom? Among the Indians.
Start.
Government of India Act 1919, called as the Montagu and Chelmsford Act. Montagu is nothing but he is the Secretary of State for India, and Chelmsford he is the Viceroy. Okay, Montagu what he is? He is the Secretary of State for India. Chelmsford what he is a Viceroy under the name. So 1919 Act, even it is called as a Montagu and Chelmsford Act, and even it is called as a Government of India Act. Okay, this act gives a provision of for bicameral legislature body. Bicameral legislature body in the form of Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. Okay, two legislative body. Legislative body, the body which is going to frame up the laws. In the same way, Darchi was allowed to provincial government. Now, Darchi here refers to which one? It's a two form of government. Two form of government, Darchi. Now here it is allowed in the this Darchi was allowed at the which place? In the provincial, okay, at the state level. Now one more new post is been appointed. This new post is called as a High Commissioner. High Commissioner. If you remember in my previous class, right? Commander in Chief, Secretary of State for India. Now High Commissioner. Viceroy as usual he is there. Viceroy was called as a Governor General of India. Governor General of India was called as a Governor General. Governor General was called as a Governor. Okay. But one more new person is been added. High Commissioner is been appointed. Moreover, this act even gave the promise of improvement of which one? Of the local self-government. Local self-government say. And provincial budget. Now see, at the last topic we studied about the budget. Okay, budget, one of the very important. Now this budget, it is not only to the central. Now the budget is even brought for the where? For the provincial sector, state level. Okay, separated. This is he says he is separating. Now central budget will be different, provincial budget will be the different. This is what we are seeing today also. Central budget is different, state budget is different. Central budget is to all the whole, and state is limited to only to the state. In the same way, continuation again see here, separate electoral college, divide and rule policy as I said. Okay, separate electoral to whom? Again to the Sikh, Muslims, Hindus and Anglo-Indian now. One more added, Anglo-Indian plus Europeans. Who is this? Europeans. Even they are also being allowed to be the part of which one? Part of the election. Part of the election. But divide and rule policy, it continued as usual. So there was no changes. So Government of India Act 1909, one bicameral legislature in the name of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, Darchi at the central level, provincial level, High Commissioner new post, local self-government was being said, and budget was being made separately for the provincial as for the central, and once again separate electoral college was being extended. It was extended. Okay, now in our next 1935 Act, what it says, let us see.
Done.
Now, Government of India Act 1935. This act acted as the base of formation of the Indian Constitution. Okay, let us understand about this Government of India Act 1935. A federal system of Indian principalities. A federal system. Federal itself says what? It's a division. Okay, one governed by the British and one it is related to the dominant status to the others. So federal system of Indian principalities was being brought up. The Reserve Bank of India were established, and today we very well know that Reserve Bank of India is the mothers of all the banks running in the country called as India. So Reserve Bank of India. So it came in the year 1935. Darchi was established at center. In the previous we studied Darchi, two form of government. Now the Darchi which was there at the provincial level was being cancelled. Provincial level, the Darchi which was there was being now cancelled. Instead of provincial level where it was being brought, Darchi was brought at the center. Okay, and federal court was established. Federal court. Now we are having two forms of courts are already there. One S and one H. Supreme Court as well as the High Court. In this way, formation of, and we have already studied in our judicial system 17 and 72 onwards. What we have saw two forms of the courts. Okay, right? One Hastings, criminal court, civil court. Now federal court system was also been brought up, which gives the opportunity to the having the courts in the way at the provincial level also and even at the central level. So these all acts, it is all about the Government of India Act 1935. So one must know, one must understand that the acts which were being brought up by the whom, by the East India Company or by the England government, these acts didn't help the Indians, but yes, these acts helped, made the Indians to understand and to make their own constitution, which was very beneficial to the Indians itself. So all the acts from the 1772 to 1935, there is one more act which we call it as a 1947. It's a Indian Independence Act 1947. After that onwards, it was totally the rule of the India itself and their representatives, and or it's totally about the people of India it was. But this constitutional, in this topic constitutional development, we easily understood that these all number of acts which were being brought up, they helped in the framing of our present Indian constitution. So these all acts didn't help or made us to live happily. Instead of that, we suffered a lot by the number of acts. So this was all related to the topic called as impact of the British rule in India, the third chapter of the history from the class 10th standard. In my next session, I will come with the more number of other chapters. Don't forget to like, subscribe as well as comment. Thank you.